Not that I'm aware of.
Did you take this and do another
This is
movie
not
today?
working.
Yeah, we just did one for Point Defiance, too.
So Derek?
Yeah, Derek was on there, and Sarah, and
Josh,
Josh was not.
why?
We don't know. We don't know what happened to him. He was supposed to be.
Huh.
Okay. Does everybody hear me?
We do.
Okay. Does everybody have tasty snacks if they need them? I myself am enjoying a bowl of Chester's Flamin' Hot Fries. Nice. And a hazy little IPA.
Oh, I love those.
They're delicious. Okay, so welcome everybody. This is my second Zoom conference of the day. The first one went great, so I have a suspicion that this will go well as well. As I explained to the last group, a few easy to think about things, which is, like the people say on Southwest Airlines, for those of you who have not ridden in an automobile since the early 1960s, I'm going to explain how this works. We're all here visible to one another. What we do when we start this is I kind of go around the room and get people to introduce themselves and say what it is that they have to do with the film, or if they're a journalist, who they represent. And then once that little pro forma exercise is finished, then the folks will ask all of you questions. People kind of jump in. People tend to be polite, but if I feel somebody isn't getting attention, then I will jump in and attempt to guide the conversation. But I think you're all adults, and with an even smaller group than this, we sustained the chat for a while last hour, so here we are again. So I'm going to start in the upper left-hand corner with Mark and ask him to introduce himself to the group.
Hi, I'm Mark Sayer, and I'm one of the producers of the picture.
All right. I have this fellow Edward to my upper right-hand corner. Do you hear me, Edward?
Yes, I finally got the orbit corrected. So now I can hear everyone.
Brilliant.
And I'm so buzzed, and I did enjoy the film.
Brilliant.
Great.
Okay. Lauren.
Hi, I'm Lauren Conlin. I have a podcast called Red Carpet Rendezvous, and I'm an entertainment contributor on Newsmax TV.
Great. Mira and Chris.
Hi, I'm Mira Sorvino.
And I'm Chris Backus.
We're both in the film. We've been in almost every film that Melora has been a part of, and she was in our wedding.
All right, Melora, live that down.
I can't.
All right, go ahead.
I'm Laura, and I wrote and directed the film. And Mira and Chris were Mira and Chris suggested that I write 10 years ago. They said, you can do it. We can do it. So this is very important.
Got it. All right, Stacy.
Hi, Stacy Oristano. I play Wilhelmina in the movie.
And Joanna.
Oh, I'm just Melora's daughter, here to support.
Great. I'm gonna put you in charge.
Oh, don't do that.
Nicoletta.
Hi everyone, I'm Nicoletta. I'm an entertainment journalist and film critic. I write for Cultured Focus magazine, and I went to the Oscars and covered it twice for FF2 Media, and I love film. It's my passion, and thanks for everyone for being here.
All right. Nina Cantu in the Starship Cantu chair.
I'm a writer in Austin. I cover South by for the past 7 years. And so I've been doing this ever since I moved back to Austin. So I cover a lot of the South by events and a lot of technology events.
Great. Nice to have you. Stephen, encore presentation from you.
I'm Stephen Swaddling. I play Peter in the movie, and I'm also an executive producer.
Brilliant. I can't see you, Rachel, but Can I hear you?
Hi guys, I'm Rachel. I'm on Team Mira, here to support. Very excited.
All right. Oh yeah, PR. Sorry.
Rachel,
Well,
thank you for being here.
sure. Martine, I can't see you either, but hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
We can, but we cannot see you.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of another deadline, so I'm sorry I'm multitasking.
Uh-huh. Well, so you
Oh.
have nothing to hide. Okay, well, I'm gonna, with that, throw the floor open to questions from the group. Fire away, Edward. Let's start with you.
Well, the movie was kind of strange, and I was wondering, why did the director leave the ending up to you to decide on his departure? I guess I didn't write that in the review, but it questioned me after everything he went through and finding the skull, and his wife Helen, she thought he was seeing a prostitute, and the argument. And my critique was that even influential people can be flawed and have the wrong ideas, and then they change their course of life. So was that the meaning for the author of the book, to just walk into the sea?
Yes.
Okay.
I felt it very important for him to walk into the sea. There is a concept in philosophy that we come from the sea and we go to the sea, and all life came from the sea, and the embrace of the abyss and the void. I didn't feel it necessary to see him actually walk in and go under. I like just seeing him, and it cuts out when he's 2/3 in, and then the ocean takes over. Because I felt it is important to allow the option of, yeah, maybe he wakes up because the water's really cold, but he has to go in and he has to reach he has to hit rock bottom. He has to hit the depths. And I think in that moment, he's the most truthful because he's honestly fucked everything up in his life.
So he touched everything, the bones, and he had to feel that. And the secretary or his assistant was scolding him because he chipped a piece of the skull. So that showed that he was obsessed with this. And so when he went to the place for the La Brea tar pits, which I was there at one time. I'm in New Orleans now, Hollywood South. They're making more movies here than I think California. I guess he felt that going into the sea was connecting also with this 8,000-year-old woman.
I think that you can approach it from that point of view, but there's also the concept that I think it's human nature. You see it more with kids than adults, but there's a wild animal, and you want to touch it. You want to touch the wild animal. You know, there's this fascination with something that's beyond you. And yet, if you are able to touch it, then it's no longer wild. And so it's gone. I saw a quote yesterday. It's Sophocles from Antigone, and he says, "You're in love with impossibility." And I think when you realize that you want something that you can't have, that doesn't exist, what do? That's it. What do you do then? And the DP and I had a joke of, well, what's the film really about? What's the film about? Come on, what's the film about? And we kept going, convex meniscus, surface tension. Because if you fill a glass full of water, right before it spills, it actually has a surface, and it raises up and it holds before it bursts. So that raising up, trying to touch the impossible, is something I think that is part of being human. And I think the recognition of what he's been trying to grasp that cannot be grasped, he doesn't know what else to do, and he walks into the ocean.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, that clears it up. Let's hope we'll see what other critics say when it's released. And why did you call it Tiger Lily Jaguar?
Okay, I called it Waterlily Jaguar.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, so I didn't make that name up. That is an Aztec name. It exists. And so I'm gonna tell you that the La Brea woman actually existed. So if you were at the La Brea Tar Pits years ago, you would have seen the hologram of her skeleton emerging and then turning into this like bombshell naked woman, except she has a skirt on. Very Raquel Welch type.
Okay.
And, she was the only human skeleton found. I mean, Wilhelmina can do the speech. She was the only human skeleton found in the La Brea Tar Pits. She had a bash on her head, so she was murdered and then thrown in. The other interesting thing is that next to her was a grinding stone, probably the murder weapon, and a domesticated dog. When I moved to Los Angeles, I became fascinated with Dia de los Muertos, and then I started exploring Aztec and Mayan. The La Brea woman was 9,000 years old. The Aztec, have in their mythology, if a normal person dies, not a warrior or a woman in childbirth, but a normal person, you go underground into the land of the dead called Mictlan, and you wander there for 4 years searching for the king and the queen of death who will decide what happens to you next. But you wander with your faithful companion, but the faithful companion is your favorite dog. So there was this strange link because the Aztecs are basically the 14th to the 16th century AD, but the La Brea woman is 9,000 years old. Is there a connection? This really has nothing to do with the movie other than I did massive research. There was an exhibit at LACMA and the Getty. I went into everything I could. I was at an exhibit of Mesoamerican sculpture and ceramics pottery. Oops. And, there was literally a bowl, and it was referred to as Waterlily Jaguar, which was the name of either a priest or a ruler. For instance, a famous ruler's son's name was Hummingbird Feather. So no, I didn't come up with a name for like Mulan, Pocahontas, Tinkerbell, Willow Woman. It's an actual Aztec name. And I thought that strange correlation between all these things of simply me trying to understand who was this woman made the title appropriate. And the woman who plays the physical manifestation in the movie, Jessica, her mother was a Channel Island Indian, so she actually might be related.
I see. Well, thank you very much. I don't want to hog up the whole conversation, but I'd like to come back later and ask me a few questions. So let somebody else take over. Thank you so much.
I have a question, Henry, if you allow me to step in.
Yes.
The question is for you as well as for the cast. I mean, what I particularly find interesting in this film is the complexity of the romantic relationships. So I just wanted to know, what is the message that you wanted to convey? And then for the actors, how did you dive in to convey that message to the rest of us?
They can tell how I felt. I just think it's I think it's very difficult to be human just by yourself and deal with your actions and your life and your memory. And I think when you start getting in intimate relationships, especially with other people, it becomes very complicated. And there are so many tensions and layers, and they change, and individuals change. So I am fascinated by relationships. And I really wanted to explore one person being completely internalized with everything, Bob. And I really wanted to see, because I do believe love exists, even though I don't, but I do, but I don't. but that someone actually loves someone and tries everything. In Los Angeles, that's very rare. So I wanted to portray what that's like. So actors.
That's very well said, by the way. It does and then it doesn't. And it's so true.
You want it, and then it doesn't.
Exactly. It's like, where is it?
And what is it really? Or is it that you're in love with the concept of love?
Right. It's that complicated.
Yes. Or Beatrice, Dante's Beatrice. He sees a woman on a bridge and he's in love. I don't think he ever met her. Am I right?
Yeah. Do the actors feel the same way in terms of the idea of love and portraying it as as the characters, Mira and the rest of you?
Well, for my character, Helen, she's trying really, really, really hard to get through. Oh, you've frozen. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Okay. Just for a second, your image froze, so I thought maybe we had
okay.
an issue. We have a lot of internet issues here. I think Helen is trying really, really hard to break through to her husband, who she feels is sort of slipping away from him. And she tries the hardest she can. She really tries to be the best, the most understanding, the kindest. You know, she tries to be playful and cute and sexy and whatever, but she's also just broken. She's just broken by the disconnect in their marriage and the fact that she knows he doesn't really want to be with her. He doesn't really want, as he says, he doesn't really want to be anywhere. He'd rather be anywhere but here. And I think she's a portrait of a person trying desperately, but also coming to grips with the reality at the bottom of it, which is just brutal. And I think it's very brutal and painful for her. Now,
You froze a little bit. Hello?
I think Mira and Chris froze there.
Oh yeah, they did.
I'm muted. Hey, Stacy, what do you think about that?
So many things. I'm a hopeless romantic to like a painful degree. Like I understand oxytocin and serotonin and all of those things. So the hardest part for me was playing Wilhelmina in that she doesn't want love. And I think when it finally hits her and she realizes her love for Dominic's character and her love for Bob, she has to leave. And it was hard for me to play not being in love with Dominic because he's wonderful and to try and be cold with him. But it was like a nice exercise for me too. But the complexities of everyone's relationship and do you want it? And when you get it, is it too much? But I love love.
Good for you.
Yeah. Is it?
Hey, I'm not in the movie, but I'm going to answer that question. I've been married for 28 years as of Saturday.
Oh,
which
wow.
I do believe is a Hollywood record.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
moving right along. Nicoletta, you want to follow up with anything?
It sure is. No, I just want to say, that's a great take because, relationships are complicated. And when you have a film like that, you kind of want to make sure that, it relates to everybody. Like I'm single and divorced, for those of us. And then also for the happily married. And how do you find that balance that, most of us can relate to and, find that balance in the characters as well. Kind of like convey that message so that anyone can get it.
Okay. Hey, Lauren. Speak up.
Yes. First of all, this is so much fun. I love doing these. They bring me so much joy being quarantined because I'm going stir crazy. I know some states are opening up, but mine is not. I'm in New York, or right now I'm not in New York, but I'm in New Hampshire. But everybody else seems to be in LA, which is crazy. So I'm sorry. But Melora, so this was your first feature. And I'm sure you learned a lot while you were directing your first feature. So is there anything that happened that you would do differently or that you did do differently when you went on to direct your next films?
I'm sure she would love to tell us if she didn't just get disconnected. Oh, there she comes back. Sorry. There you go.
Yes, I see you.
So yeah, I learned a lot. I mean, during this quarantine thing, virus, this pandemic, 2 weeks ago feels like a year ago. So the film feels like another lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
I learned an odd thing. I was thinking about what's changed, and there are I think for instance with Bob, he that fine line of creativity and madness.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of creativity, when you're compelled to write or paint, it comes upon you, and it's emotion. You know, I think it's filled with emotion, and I think so. There's a place for that. Or as an actor, like when I'm an actress, okay, I learn and I study, and then there's a place where the emotion comes. There's a place for emotion. But when you're actually filmmaking, there is so much time before the actual filming is, as much as it's crazy, I think is the most intense, beautiful, creative part. But there's so much preparation, and the business afterwards, not just post-production, but getting it to a point where we're like, oh my God, it's on Amazon and we're having a Zoom. Like, we did this? You can't have any emotion with that. You have to you just have to throw it out the window. And even in editing, you know, there's this thing, for me as an actor, acting is one thing, but to watch actors become the character is so magical and so beautiful. And to work one-on-one with a DP and then see it through the camera, like Andy Warhol, you know, if you crop and frame and color something really like a Campbell soup can, suddenly you have something stunning. And you have to be careful, I think, not to, what I learned about me is that I am very emotional. I fall in love with watching these beautiful actors. I like with the editing process, and you can do this, and it's just amazing. But you just have to have like focus like a sniper with all the other stuff, and all your emotion has to be put on the side.
Right. And is there, or was there ever a time, you clearly have a stellar cast here, but was there ever a time when you were directing that you kind of just said, oh, I wish I could be on screen right now. I wish I could just jump in.
Never.
Okay. You separate it.
Yeah, I didn't realize how amazing actors are. Like for me, I remember, you can ask Mark Sayer, when we were in pre-production, I was like, you can put the camera on Mira Sorvino and have her just like read a book to herself for half an hour. I swear to God, you'll be fascinated. I swear. Put the camera on Stacy. Put the camera on Chris. Just watch them. I mean, I think the casting is very important, so that I had these actors who are like the most beautiful, well-trained racehorses, and you just want to watch them run, and you just go, oh my God. So that's what it was like. Me, I would never cut. That's the problem. I could easily never cut. Or there's another beautiful moment where everything's getting set, and we all know, you know, that sound set and the camera set, and any minute, action's gonna be said. And there's this energy and this thing that happens, like I see it in these actors, and it's magic. It's so beautiful.
I think everyone did a beautiful job. And it actually occurred to me as I was watching that this might actually be great for the stage as well. I don't know if anyone else thought of that, or if I'm just, I don't know, my brain goes weird places. But yeah, I thought it was beautiful, and I thought everyone did a beautiful job. And Mira Sorvino, I've been obsessed with you since Summer of Sam. Yeah, you don't do anything wrong in my eyes.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you.
Okay, I'm done.
Stephen's
Henry, you're talking, but I think you're muted, bud.
Well, as David Byrne says, you are talking a lot, but you are not saying anything. I had asked Mira and Chris, about the linearity of the construction of this movie in their performance, which is, do you ever find yourself having shot the film, done the work, and then watched the movie and thought that what ended up on screen was in some ways different from what it is that you performed? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I mean, that definitely makes sense. I mean, with this particular project, I've got the one scene with Mira and working with Melora. I mean, I think we shot it as a oneer. So everything that we shot and talked about, and discussed, and was written all appeared on camera. Am I right on that, Melora? That we did it as a
one scene, but you're talking about the one.
Yeah, the big one scene where it sort of revolves around. You're always shocked to see how it goes. I mean, even like I think it ends in a closet, and somehow we got the one all the way through the big art studio and stopped in a closet. I think we're frozen. No, we're good. And then it was out of the closet. Melora just creates such a safe environment to work in and to take chances and to really give you a sturdy base. So in this particular instance, everything that there was no change for me. The way that we discussed it, the way that it was written is exactly what's on screen.
Mira, was that the same for you?
Yeah. I mean, I think there were a few scenes in the film that when we shot them, they were longer, and they are, edited down. And as Melora said, she's very generous and just lets you see sort of where it's going to go. But for the most part, it played the way that I thought it would play. It did play the way I remembered the scenes being. There may be a few reactions that I remember having that are no longer there. But that's in every edit.
Right. Okay. Hey, Nina, are you out there? Nina, can you hear me? Guess not. Nicoletta.
Yes, I have a
call
question.
on you again.
Yes, I have a lot of questions, so thank you.
Sure.
So my first question is for Mira and Chris. I just want to know, how is it being quarantined together? How has that been like?
Every moment with Mira is amazing. So it's pretty good. I mean, it's definitely a challenge with school.
Because we have 4 kids. So.
So we've 4 kids. So kind of navigating that, but it's fun. We try to get outside and do fun activities, and we write together, and
we're writing 2 projects together. So that. The funny thing is, people think so much time on your hands when you're in quarantine, but if you have children, you have like no time on your hands. You're actually stealing time to do something. And every day we try and work on this script that we're basically just doing a polish on. We're just going through it from start to finish, just kind of enhancing each scene a little bit, just making it sparkle a little bit more, a little more specific. And damned if we can't, like, it's like we're really lucky if we get like an hour and a half a day to focus on it before there's some emergency with one of the animals, one of the children, their internet isn't working, so it's interesting. People think that this is just like lazying around time, and not if you have a family.
I completely get you. I have a daughter who's being homeschooled, and at first I hated it. I even told her teachers I hate it because I can't do it. It was so hard to balance. So how have you guys found that balancing act? I mean, it's really hard to find. And like for any parent that's out there, they know what we're talking about. The balancing between, doing the scripts and then also homeschooling them. And you have 4.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that ultimately we've really decided to embrace the moment. I know it's hard and to be locked down, but I think we'll all look back, especially as parents and kids, and go, it's pretty amazing that we had these 3 months with our kids at home, and they got to be with us, and we got to do a lot of special things with them, even if sometimes in the moment we wish we could go run and do something. I think ultimately we'll enjoy those moments. Obviously, the circumstances of, the near 100,000 people that have died will definitely, our thoughts are always with them and their families. But, considering we're pretty fortunate that we're all healthy and we get to spend time with each other.
Well, I'm sure you're doing a great job, and your kids are appreciating it. And now back to the film. I know that was a little off topic, but just interesting for the viewers and for myself. Back to the film. Do you think that if the film was directed by a male director, would have had a different vibe? Because, I've covered a lot of films written by women. They always have that certain vibe. And sometimes if a male director directed that particular film, then it would totally change the vibe and the energy of the whole project. Do you believe that would have been the case here?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking everyone.
I think that if you changed any element of the film, of any film, it changes. Male or female. If you had cast differently, if we had a different location, if this or if that. This was a very tight film. So it really relied on everyone being completely present. So I think like with a mathematical equation, if you change a number, the formula changes.
I think it's so specifically your film, Laura.
Yeah.
Like it's so personal to you. Like I don't think anyone could have directed it the same way, male or female, because it was really, I mean, you really tear pages out of your own life story and you thinly disguise them and you slap them up on screen, and they're so real that way. That's why there's such an authenticity and freshness to your work, because it's not like some realm of fantasy. You're really describing emotional lives that are not far from the inner workings of your heart and your life. So I don't see, I think it'd be very weird if someone else directed your script.
Yeah, I don't think I
want. It's gotta be your voice.
Sorry?
I didn't say.
I didn't hear it.
She just got modulated at the end. I mean, I think there's a difference between movies where somebody gets an assignment from a producer or a studio and does a gig as a work for hire, and then somebody who has an idea and says, I can't do anything but make this movie. And in that way, it's individualized. I am interested, actually. I mean, if this is a bad question, then, but I'm curious about working with male versus female directors, and if there is if not generalities, but if there are stylistic commonalities that have to do with one's gender. It's sort of like there's an expression going, or there's a belief that during the current coronavirus thing, that countries that are led by women are doing a much better job of addressing this. So I wonder if that applies to movie directors too.
Well, I guess you could ask everybody that question.
I am. I mean to. Go ahead. Stacy, take your hand off your chin and tell me what you think of that.
I'm going to make you go first. It's still, I've worked with a lot of male and female directors, especially doing like TV shows, because you have a new director each week. I've had really good and really not so great with both, but it still is God, I hope I don't get in trouble for this. It still is such a, a man's world and a man's game, just Hollywood in general right now. And I think women are still having to find a voice and prove themselves a little bit more than anybody else, unfortunately. So that's not necessarily any different, but maybe harder for women just to be in charge through no fault of their own.
Stephen?
Hello. You know, I mean, I'm kind of blind to a lot of it. I tend to be brought up in my life to respect my elders and to respect people that are in charge, and it doesn't matter to me whether you're a woman or a guy. I mean, to be honest with you, I was petrified of Malora as a director, as an actor. So, you know, I mean, I was surrounded by such amazing talent in the cast, and I was a little intimidated. And I actually do remember one moment when Malora came up to me. I'd been questioned throughout the entire process before we did the scene. You know, we were talking about people's histories and things, and I was getting ready to do the scene, and Malora comes up to me and she whispers in my ear, "Don't act." And she walked away. And I sat there plaguing through my mind, what does she mean? What does she mean, don't act? And I panicked, but all of a sudden, go. And I just did what I needed to do. And from that point, I mean, I respect Malora with my whole heart. You know, I mean, she is an artist, and her vision translates from her physical art to anything that she does, whether it's film or, you know, acting or directing, you know. So for me, I don't pay attention to that. I focus on who is directing me at the time and give them what they ask.
Right.
Try.
Hey, Judy.
Yes, I'm sorry. Hi.
That's all right. Have you
I'm
been
fine.
following this?
A little bit, because oh my God, I just logged on, so I've been working. I'm in New York, so you know, it opened up, so it's starting to be crazy again. So go on, I'll jump in as you guys continue.
All right, I'll go back to Lauren.
I was just curious, did you guys plan a theatrical release for this, or is it always going straight to video on demand?
It was something we considered, you know, with the present landscape, of course, you know, it becomes a non-starter.
Right. I guess that's what I was kind of getting at. Like, is this almost, not that COVID is positive at all, clearly, but for a lot of films, I think it's positive, for especially the films coming straight to video on demand. Do you agree?
I think we chat a little bit about this on the last one that we just did, and I mean, I think it's indisputable that, you know, it's a huge silver lining for independent filmmakers, simply by virtue of the fact that it sort of levels the playing field. You know, whereas we might not have the cash flow to be putting, you know, smaller budget films into 200 theaters. Now all of a sudden, you know, the core mechanic for consuming media is the same, and it's on our screens in our homes.
Mm-hmm.
And so it lets us get to play in a space that bigger films do, and really compete with them. And I think, you know, on top of that is that, you know, with the scenario and no new productions that have been producing any new properties, any of us that were lucky enough to have, you know, a film or two in the can, all of a sudden the conversation started changing, even with distributors that 2-3 months ago, you know, weren't interested. I mean, I know for a couple of our films and a couple that we still haven't released, I'm getting phone calls from distributors that had passed 2 months ago.
Oh, wow. That's great for you then. That's
yeah,
awesome.
no, I mean, and that's what I'm saying. It's great for us. And then, you know, with TVOD consumption up so significantly, that really benefits indie films, because that's our primary method of distro.
Right. So it's been, I guess, such a whirlwind, because I cannot keep up with all the movies to watch right now.
Right.
So yeah,
It'll be interesting to see in 4 to 5, 6 months where we're at. You know, given what's happening in the status quo, and, you know, because you're going to run out of productions soon.
Right.
we'll see what happens then.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, with
Just
bated
curious
breath.
because I mean I know that they're allowing films this year that go directly to video on demand to be eligible for an Oscar. I think they had to
Sure.
have a planned theatrical release or something like that. But I was like, oh, this is great. This opens it up to a lot of different films. But I know you guys filmed this, you know, a few years ago. But I always like to know how was the camaraderie with the cast? Did you guys do anything fun when you weren't filming, or was it kind of like everyone just kept to themselves, or
I think.
anything?
I mean, I think on this one is. I don't know if you can hear me, but I think this one's unique. I mean, obviously, Mira and I are married. Melora has been our best friend. You know, Mira's best friend since 2000. You know, since Wise Girls, and since 2004, she has been a significant part of our lives together, and she was in our wedding, and so I think a lot of family affair to this. You know, we kind of knew everybody going in. So I don't know, like I remember the wrap party was a lot of fun. We all knew each other already. So I think it's unique in that way that Melora, you know, and I think Melora can comment on that too, but she knew everyone and called everybody, we played this, I wrote this for you. Yeah, so if that makes sense.
I love that.
Okay,
Did you guys go for drinks after, or what?
Yeah.
I had a trailer on this set, like where you go in between scenes or to change it, and I swear to God, I never saw my trailer. I never went into it. Sometimes I didn't even know where it was because I would stay on set, like even if it wasn't my scene, because we were also shooting at like this gorgeous house and gorgeous locations. I just wanted to be around everybody the whole time, which is not normal.
I love that.
Oh, Judy, I think you're muted.
I don't follow my own instructions.
Okay, I'm talking to myself. Okay.
There you go.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I am. So I do have a question. So now, I'm sure that all of you, the actors specifically, have had the experience of junkets, red carpets, and now Zoom. So which one do you prefer? As far as being interviewed for your film or television show?
Well, this takes the stress out of it a little bit. I mean, the stress is there in that I am not good with my own hair. I'm better with makeup, but I'm terrible with hair. So there's always this stress of like having to have your hair being visible on, on Zoom. But you are sitting in your own room. Your bottom half, you really don't know what I'm wearing. I'm actually wearing like a bathing suit, like board shorts on the bottom.
Oh my God, show us.
But I put on
Now we all know.
I put on but you know, there's something very relaxed about this. I don't know, but there's also something fun about having the sort of sending off party of a real premiere, where you have some people who haven't seen each other sometimes in almost a year or so, and then they all get together for this big fun party, and then you send the baby off into the world with this, you know, public screening. But yeah, they both have their advantages.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, you know, that is missing from this is obviously we see everybody, but there is no human connection. And we're reliant on our internet staying up long enough with 4 children using it as well that we don't keep dropping out. But the human contact part of it is definitely, you know, as Mira said, to see everybody and celebrate together. While we are all celebrating together, it's slightly distancing.
James, you're late to the party, but the question was, what is it like having a real premiere versus a virtual one? And what are the benefits and the SWOT analysis of both?
Well, the first loss in all of this is that you can't pull your colleagues aside and say catty things about your other colleagues. I don't know. And I solved the hair problem by wearing a hat. So
I love it.
Yeah, sorry about being late. Somehow I got head faked on the date. It's okay. But you know, you work with what you've got, And I guess what I like about it, because I've done a few film festivals this way, is that the scope of the audience can sometimes be even much larger, which is really gratifying. You know, there were like people at this film festival from other countries, which was fascinating. So that's one aspect of it that was positive for me.
Okay.
Actors, are you guys going to even feel, and just, you know, directors, are you going to feel comfortable going on a red carpet anytime soon? I'm thinking about this just because my whole premise, my podcast is called Red Carpet Rendezvous. I literally rip audio from red carpets I cover. So I'm like, I feel like I'm out of business. I don't know. No one's going to want to go to them. Or they're going to be like, yeah, here, interview me from 6 feet away. I don't know.
Boom microphones.
Yeah, right. But seriously, you guys don't feel comfortable with that. When are you going to feel comfortable? Next December?
It's such a weird thing about when we're even going to be able to go back to a set too. Like none of it makes any sense. I'm in Brooklyn, so I don't actually know what it feels like being in the epicenter. I don't understand what it feels like anywhere else, so I'm terrified.
Yeah. I live on 79th Street in Manhattan, and I left immediately because I have 2 little kids that will be like licking park benches. I was like, we have to go. But I miss the city so much. I miss being there. So I'm jealous to hear you say right now you're in Brooklyn, even though you're not doing anything. But yeah, it still makes me jealous. Yeah.
I'd like to hear somebody say they look forward to a time of
I can't wait.
human contact.
If they tell me to go back to work tomorrow, I'll go. I swear to God. And I know that's probably a reckless statement, but I love my job. I just love doing it so much that it's just incredibly painful to not be at work.
We're starting a movie on the 15th of June.
Pardon?
I said, we're starting another movie on the 15th of June.
Oh, wow.
All right. Well,
James will be there.
In Iceland, I heard.
I mean, I think there's just so many unknowns. This whole entire thing is so surreal, and no one really has an answer. But I mean, we do what we do, and we love what we love to do, and we just want to get back to it. But obviously, we want to listen to what everyone else has to say, and make sure we're not making the wrong decision.
Yeah, I mean, the show I'm working on now, they're going to change their location of the show. I mean, they're halfway through the show, and they're not going to go back to Mexico. They're going to try and figure out how to shoot it in South Carolina and Puerto Rico. And they're
not because they would think that was safer there.
Well, I think they trust the numbers coming out of South Carolina and Puerto Rico more than they trust the numbers coming out of Mexico. I mean, just in terms of the data that they're getting, but I'm not an expert in any of that, so I can't speak competently to that. But I think that, and then there's the aspect of international travel. So that offers a number of complexities. So, I don't know. There's not going to be 100% safe answer to any of it. That's for sure.
I do have a question. So when you do go back, how are you going to be? Like if you do have to be on the carpet, that was a good question for you, Lauren. I mean, how will you, like if an interviewer comes up to you, how comfortable are you going to be with them asking the question about whatever project you've been working on? I know you were saying have the big mics, but how?
I think there's protocols in place, and people will follow those protocols.
Okay.
And again, I don't think there's a true answer to what that's going to be yet, but those protocols will be set, and people will have to follow those. And if they don't, then they don't go on the red carpet. It's their choice, I think, at this point.
Or we all wear masks.
Yeah.
Or they don't allow smaller to medium-sized outlets. It's just Access Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
But, that's what I was thinking also, like AP, and then they just distribute everything. I don't know.
It probably is couture masks.
What's that?
It's gonna definitely be like couture masks. Like, who are you wearing?
Oh no, I definitely ordered one. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I found this woman who she sews like masks from old fabric, like Gucci fabrics, and I was like, oh, yep, that's happening. Why not, right?
I saw a photo that looked like it had to have been Photoshopped, but it was a red carpet with a bunch of like phone booth cubicles, plastic see-through, where people would walk up into that step and be talking through, almost like through a prison glass window or something.
Oh wow, that's so interesting. If that's the case, then only Focus Features and Paramount are going to have red carpets, because who's going to be able to afford that at this point?
Yes,
So I have a question for the cast. Just wanted to jump in here because, being that this film is out now and everyone's excited to see it, I just wanted to know, as an actor and then personally, what are you going to take away from this film, from the script, from the experience, and did it help you grow in some way?
Well, I think anytime that you get to work with people that are better than you, your game improves. So I certainly had that part of my journey. Anytime I can work with actors that I've, long admired, the rub-off effect is it's pretty nice. So, and then I think also too, there were some friendships that came out of the experience that for me were profound. And those were the two takeaways for me.
Stacy?
Melora gave me this character that is so unlike what I get to do. She was refined and smart and wore beautiful clothes and a little bit classy, and I'm like the quirky, funny girl next door waitress always, and so it was so nice to have that opportunity to do something like that. But I think also just taking away, this happened completely randomly, and it is also kind of awesome, but in the past week I have binge watched Hollywood, so I got to see Mira. I rewatched my favorite indie called Short Term 12 that Melora is in, and then I binge watched House, and James is in the finale episode, and I saw all of my friends just within the past week, and it felt a little fortuitous. It was wonderful.
That's cool.
What about from Mira and Chris?
I feel like I learn something on every single job I do. As an actor, you never stop learning. Your craft is a moving target, and you build on what you already know you can do, and then you dare yourself to go further. And I think that Melora's techniques and sometimes, the flying without a net of indie filmmaking, where you cannot spend days on a single scene. And Melora, she edits in her mind before we get to the set, so she doesn't shoot more than she needs. She's not randomly shooting a master, a wide, a medium close-up, an extreme close-up. She only does the camera angles that she is planning to put into the cut. So let's go. It's not like save it for later, save it for the close-up. You adapt to the plan, and your character has to be vulnerable and alive and surprised by things as you go. And I think it taught me things in several of the scenes, because the scenes kind of take these weird turns. They start off one way and they end up going another. And emotionally, it's quite a workout. But I think there's a lot of beauty in it. There's a lot of beauty in the. I was grateful for the opportunity to be a part of it.
I don't think I can say it any better than that.
Edward, we haven't heard from you in a while.
Well, listen to everyone. Mia, how did you figure out that scene where you're scratching the painting? Was that to let out the pain, knowing you were getting divorced, or you felt alone? How did that motivate you? And were you doing any improv in that scene, which was pretty dynamic?
Well, first of all, you should know that all of those paintings are painted by Melora.
Really? Fantastic.
Melora was a painter before she was anything else. Melora went to art school and has been a professional, exhibited, valued, collected, painter. Those are all paintings. And sometimes I felt bad about doing anything to the canvases because I felt like I was destroying something beautiful, something valuable. And she's like, no, really go for it. And she, she gave me a lot of the impetus to do what we were doing, where I was flashing the one painting, like I think it's called Chicken Man. It was Chicken Man, right? The one that we're scratching? Yeah. It's a very angry painting. She was like, you can do whatever you want to it. We're adding paint and then we're slashing the canvas. So sometimes I was doing things just myself as an improv. Sometimes they were directed by Melora, but she gave me a lot of license to mess up her beautiful paintings, which made me very nervous. It was a lot of responsibility.
Did you inherit that painting from Melora after you desecrated it as a souvenir?
Well, actually, I paint in oil. And so Barbara Koltai, who was the art director, designer, we developed a paint that was water-based that could be washed off.
So that was the trick. Okay.
Yeah, and then the painting that Mira scrapes at, when I painted it, I actually scraped at it. So
Mia was getting an art lesson as well as the acting that was going on.
Well, no, Mira's an amazing artist too. When she's doing the charcoal drawings, those are her charcoal drawings. She, like, Mira, you drew those drawings. I just
I like drawing and I like art, but I'm not, you're the real professional artist. I'm just like a hobbyist.
Well, films of the people that looking at this film will have to look at all these Easter eggs or hidden gems throughout. So that might make it interesting if it goes to DVD and they add a few extras and who knows what else. But how do you guys feel that the film is going to just be streaming, or do you think, I think that the release date is
today.
So it is today. But you sent me something for June. I don't know. So I looked at the film and had that in there because the St. Bernard News prints a week behind, which I don't understand. He tells me the deadline is Tuesday. Then they start printing on a Sunday. So I have to make sure that everything is in by the weekend because I never know when these people are going to set the print. So in the paper. But anyway, so hopefully, you'll get it a week from the release date, which is not my fault because I don't set the rules. In the printing.
Okay. The movie will be there when the piece comes out.
Good, and I also send it through Facebook, and Stage 32, as you well know, have about 53,000 actors and film people who will see this, so that's an added plus.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Judy. Unmute.
So how do you decide, as far as your films, what you might be sending to a festival or what you might be sending straight to a stream or distributor? How do you decide that?
That's a pretty complicated question.
Yeah.
And it changes film to film. But, for independent filmmakers, once we finish a film, typically we're soliciting domestic distributors first. And for a lot of us, in my case, I know most of the distributors because I used to run acquisitions for a distributor for a number of years. A lot of independent filmmakers will have to hire a sales agent to do that, and then they'll solicit it. And of course, you have a sales agent, they're taking their commission as well. Most independent filmmakers have to use sales agent for foreign sales simply because of the sheer amount of territories and number of distributors there. But you begin to solicit the film. You kind of start to see what the feedback is. from different distributors. You start receiving offers, and there's always a little bit of a game and difficult decision making if you're receiving offers that seem decent, but maybe you want to hold out for something better. There's always the option that we might supplement what a domestic distributor is doing and do some sort of turnkey theatrical release. We've done that before, so it's a difficult terrain to navigate. And really, like I said earlier, there's probably a significant silver lining here for independent filmmakers in terms of giving us a little bit of power back, because prior to this, the landscape has gotten very difficult on the distribution side, where most of the domestic distributors that used to give us significant MGs have sort of fallen by the wayside because they can't compete with the bankrolls of streaming giants that are acquiring films, for a substantial amount, that then take away the properties that these mid-tier distributors were acquiring and spending money on. And now they're relegated to picking up stuff that they feel like they do have to dump, on a variety of platforms, or do straight distribution deals where they're not offering MGs. And it's, has been difficult as we're in sort of a period of transition, and even the way that people consume movies has changed greatly in the last 5 to 6 years. So I think there's a space for independent filmmaking in that, and particularly for us to fill a vacuum that the studios aren't filling when they're focusing on, branded franchises and major tentpoles. It's nice of them to leave us genre fare and dramas and, some of the movies that I think a lot of us on the Zoom call even would say that's stuff we really want to make. And I think it will sort of follow a little bit of the same direction that the music industry has gone, where you're starting to have filmmakers look seriously at what self-releasing properties looks like. And there's a lot to learn to do that, and there's still a lot that needs to change in order for us to do that as effectively as a distributor is going to be able to do it. But I do think that's the direction it's trending, outside of being acquired by a streaming giant, because I don't think you're going to have a lot of these mid-tier distributors left, and a lot have already shut their doors simply because of that fact.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Time now where it's the lightning round. I'm thinking that we're going to ask one more question from each of you guys. So I'm going to start with Lauren.
I'm good. I'm all set. Thank you, everyone, so much.
Thanks, Lauren.
You want to give your question to somebody else? Ed?
All I can say is everything was great. I hope everybody is having a good time, even though they're isolated. How are you feeling, Henry? Because we go way back. Didn't you send me the man, the elephant that lives in a house? I mean, we went way back.
I don't even know what that means. We met working on the Louisiana Film Festival.
I mean, about an elephant in a house. I get strange things.
I mean, I could have been that guy. I ate alligators for the first time in Baton Rouge. So maybe that
I could remember that title. Don't forget that title.
I know. Nicoletta.
I actually have to jump off, but I wanted to say that I love this movie so much. You are all amazing. Melora, you're wonderful. So thank you for letting me be a part of this.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Okay, thank you guys.
What have you got to say?
I just want to say thank you for all your answers and for your time today, and just stay strong during COVID. I know it's difficult that the film industry is, frozen right now. It's sad for me as well as a movie lover and entertainment writer and so forth. But, stay strong, and thanks for the film and for everything and for having me.
Thank you.
Nicoletta.
Judy.
Okay, so last for me, I want to know, and I asked this in the last Zoom, for your characters, name some, let me know whether there was something that you loved about them or you hated about your character, and what that was.
Stacy looks deep in thought.
Or maybe she just wasn't paying attention.
Loved or what? Sorry.
So what, something that you either loved or hated about your character. It could be either.
There's nothing I hated about it. I love playing people who are so very different from me, but there are some similarities at the same time. And when Melora handed me this character, I was like, seriously? Are you sure? Really? But getting to live in this world that Melora created, and it's just, this was heaven, the whole process.
Thank you.
Stephen Swadley.
No, I don't think there's anything I hated. I mean, I played a completely different character to most. I mean, you were talking about love earlier. There was no love that Peter had for anyone. I mean, his relationship with Bill was very business focused as opposed to his relationship that he had with Bob. So I was more concerned about getting him back into business and getting out of these crazy ideas and start earning some money, as opposed to,
you had a love for money.
Relationship, exactly. Got to love the money. But no, there was nothing I disliked or liked. I liked everything. Don't get me wrong. didn't dislike the character.
Mira and Chris.
Yes.
Anything I guess initially I worried that Helen was too passive. And I think we worked on trying to give her more of a voice, even though it's not her nature to be confrontational. She's trying to smooth things over. She's trying to work it out always. She's always trying to fix things. But I think that, eventually, the pain, is breaking through. So sometimes it's hard to play a person who's suffering, and who's sort of like in molasses, like an ant in molasses or something. I feel like that's how she is for a while in the story, but
I loved playing Jackson, I think was his name. I told Melora he was like the life vest, like the one with no problems. He just sort of floated through and was the life vest for Mira's character. And he had no negativity. So it was one of those roles where you just got to be joyous and full of life. And I really enjoyed that. And working with Melora, is always special. So, doing that is something I would love to do again and have done, I think, 3 times now. So, I like that part of the role as well.
Okay. James, was there anything for James?
Oh, well, Bob is complicated. I suppose I don't really love, the self-loathing, the cruelty, the narcissism. But I admire the full immersion in the pursuit of whatever truth he was seeking out, and the willingness to sacrifice everything for that higher ideal. I guess that takes a certain kind of person, which I'm not, but Bob was. But more than anything, it was just to be part of the company and to try and execute what Melora had written for us. That was the best part.
Right. Okay. Well, I have one last question, but you don't even have to answer it. I think that when people like you, Melora, decide to make a movie that is a passion project, I think there's 2 kinds of things that motivate them. One is it a scratch you had to itch? Or an itch you had to scratch? Or was it a story that you really felt that you had to tell?
Are you asking me?
Yes. Why?
I have to go back to when I sat with Mira and Chris 10 years ago. And I had been on a John Cassavetes, Ingmar Bergman, Antonioni kick. There had been a retrospective of his work at LACMA, the Los Angeles County Museum of Art. So, and Mira had just done a film where they shot with the Canon D5. Do you remember, Mira?
It was in Square, yeah.
Yeah, and you were like, we can do this. Like, you should write. Like, we can do this, because I was like, you know, I mean, to work like Ingmar Bergman, you go to, and you use the same actors, and you just keep like making films, and you both were like, right, do it, right. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna do it. I had been fascinated with the La Brea Woman since taking my kids to the La Brea Tar Pits when they were little. And I had been fascinated with how these fathers would be so bored, and then come to the hologram of the La Brea Woman, which is a woman, and they'd be like, and then there was, I have a friend, and I said, I'm writing a script for you, and it was like, so when I was compelled, I suddenly became, first I thought I can't do this, and then I got final draft, and then I'm like, I really can't deal with this. I can't deal, and I'm a very slow typer. If my daughter's still on here, she'll tell you I drive her crazy, even on the phone. And but something, the story started to take over. I remember my kids were still in high school when I was finishing the first draft, and I would pick them up, and I'd be like, I'm not cooking, I gotta write. So it became this thing. It took over. So did that answer your question?
It did. I think we've used up almost all of our available time.
Okay. Yeah, I gotta say though that starting is the worst thing in the entire world.
Okay.
Oh, there's my daughter.
Well, guys and gals, that was good fun. I appreciate you guys going through this intellectual and technological gymnastics with us for the day. It was really cool to get everybody's views and to be able to have you share them with folks. I'm going to maybe go have another IPA. I think you guys ought to select your beverage of choice and enjoy that. And yes, I see that. Is that a gin and tonic there, Joanna?
Astral. What is it?
Last word.
Last word.
It's called a password?
Last word.
Last word.
The drink is called a last word?
A bartender.
What goes into a last word?
Well, this one's got mezcal, green chartreuse, lime juice, and maraschino.
Oh my God.
You need to be in quarantine. If this happens again, you need to go stay with Johnny, because he's the most amazing cook as well. So
yeah, crowded, but always room for one more, huh? All right, everyone. Thank you very much. We will speak to you all soon, and y'all have a good day. Thanks a gazillion.
Thank you,
everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Good.
Hi, James. I like your beard.